I don't think he's gotten a fair chance. I don't think fair is a word we use in the NFL very often, and it's not really the way the league is constructed, but he's not gotten the fair chance. He's not gotten the same opportunity Deshaun Watson has. There's also now two staffs that have coached him that have said, maybe you're not the starting quarterback for the Browns anymore. He's got to play well this weekend. It might not matter, Greg. It really might not. They might have already made their mind up. But even I think I saw yesterday, Deshaun Watson took the reps with the ones yesterday. So the Browns are playing Sanders, but he's not taking the reps all week with the ones.
They were saying they were rotating reps with the ones in the week leading up to this but Deshaun was going to get the reps with the ones in the.
Want one guy start over the other, but they're very clearly showing signs they want Watson to start. He might not win the job because Sanders might play that much better than him, but they're trying to make Watson, or at least have him win the job, Greg. And look, fifth-round quarterbacks.
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
Is it possible that the biggest quarterback battle in football is nothing more than a carefully coordinated illusion? For months, fans were promised a completely open, pure meritocracy, where the best player would take the field in week 1. But right now, the walls are closing in on that narrative, and the truth coming out of team headquarters is painting a very different picture. When you look past the official press conferences and examine who is actually taking the meaningful reps against top-tier competition, the gap between what is being said and what is actually happening becomes impossible to ignore. Analysts, former players, and insiders are finally pointing out that this competition may have been settled long before training camp ever started. Before we break down the undeniable evidence, I want to see where you stand right now. If you believe this competition is an authentic battle, comment the word "real" below. If you think the outcome was decided months ago by the front office, comment "rigged." Pay close attention to what happened behind closed doors during the most critical practice week of the summer, because what was revealed on that field changes everything.
Sanders to get a full-time job would be an outlier in the NFL right now. And so I think this is it for him. He's got to prove this next couple of weeks he could be the guy who won't be starting in Cleveland.
Watson to be named the starting quarterback of the Browns on Monday. This is it, but it's more ceremonial, because of what you alluded to with the practice snaps during the week. A lot of coaches, whether you agree with it or not.
When you step inside an NFL facility during the heat of August, there is one universal rule that every coach, scout, and player understands. Words mean absolutely nothing, but the distribution of practice snaps reveals everything. For weeks, the public message coming out of Cleveland suggested that Shedeur Sanders was being given every single opportunity to compete for the starting job on completely equal footing. The front office repeated it, the coaching staff echoed it, and the press releases painted a picture of an authentic quarterback derby. But that polished narrative began to shatter the moment the team lined up for joint practices against the Buffalo Bills. Joint practices are not ordinary summer workouts. Ask any veteran coach or former player, and they will tell you that joint sessions against an unfamiliar opponent are the closest thing you can get to real regular season football without keeping official score. The speed is violent, the defensive looks are unscripted, and coaches use those exact high-leverage snaps to evaluate who can handle live pressure in critical moments. That is why former NFL offensive lineman Jeff Schwartz immediately raised the alarm when he looked at how the snaps were divided during those joint sessions. While the public was told that Sanders would be starting the upcoming preseason exhibition, the actual high-value preparation was handed almost exclusively to Deshaun Watson. Watson was the one taking the field against Buffalo's starting first-team defense, operating with the starting offensive line, and getting the live reps against elite pass rushers. Sanders, meanwhile, was relegated to working almost entirely with the second-team unit against backup defenders. Schwartz pointed out the blinding contradiction sitting right in plain sight. If the coaching staff genuinely intended to evaluate Sanders as a potential Week 1 starter, giving the critical joint practice reps to Watson makes zero football sense. It sends an unmistakable signal to the entire locker room that the game reps given to Sanders are largely theatrical, while the real preparation for the regular season is being poured into Watson. This is the exact kind of calculated front office maneuvering that casual fans miss. But here on Gridiron Ground, we look past the headlines to uncover how decisions are truly made behind closed doors. If you are the type of fan who values authentic football analysis over corporate talking points, take a second to lock in with Gridiron Ground by subscribing right now so you never fall for the league's public relations spin again. What makes this practice discrepancy even more telling is the timing. In modern football, preseason games have become increasingly diluted. Star defensive players rarely play more than a series or two, and schemes are kept intentionally basic, so teams do not reveal their playbook before September. Joint practices are where genuine coaching evaluations happen because coordinators dial up complex pressures and disguise coverages. By deliberately scripting the joint sessions around Watson, the coaching staff essentially insulated him from losing ground while simultaneously depriving Sanders of the specific reps he needed against Buffalo's top defensive unit. You cannot claim an athlete has an equal chance to earn a job when you withhold the very tools required to win it. The design appears subtle to the untrained eye, but inside the building, every player wearing a helmet knows what that practice schedule really meant. Yet the practice schedule was only the first layer of this calculated strategy, because what the team did next with their game day announcements took the situation to an entirely different level. To understand why this situation has sparked such intense debate among national analysts, you have to look at the psychology of how sports organizations manage public expectations. Media personality Danny Parkins recently dissected the situation and pulled back the curtain on what can only be described as a masterclass in narrative management. His assessment was blunt. Handing Sanders the starting nod in an early preseason game is essentially a ceremonial gesture designed to create the illusion of fairness. By publicly naming Sanders the starter for an exhibition contest, the organization instantly arms itself with a convenient defense against critics. They can point to the television broadcast, point to the starting lineup on the stadium screen, and claim that they gave the young quarterback his moment under center. However, anyone who understands the structural reality of the NFL knows that starting a preseason game with the second-string offensive line against an opposing team that is resting its best players is not the same as being prepared to lead a franchise. It is a classic corporate diversion. It allows the front office to check a box on an imaginary public relations checklist while keeping their preferred plan entirely intact behind the scenes. Parkins argued that this approach is specifically crafted to satisfy casual.
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
Observers, while ensuring that the substantive, foundational work remains completely tilted in Watson's direction. When you look at the structure of an NFL game week, the quarterback who receives the priority snaps on Wednesday and Thursday during situational team periods is the quarterback the coaching staff is actually preparing for the season. The player who gets tossed into an exhibition game with limited prep time alongside backup receivers is being asked to perform a high-wire act without a safety net. This double standard becomes even more apparent when you examine what happens after the ball is snapped in these exhibition games. If a young quarterback struggles while playing behind an offensive line made up of players fighting to make the practice squad, the narrative immediately shifts toward his lack of readiness. If he makes a single mistake, it gets amplified on highlight reels as proof that he is not mature enough for the starting role. Meanwhile, the veteran quarterback who was protected throughout the week in controlled, highly scripted joint practice settings avoids that level of public vulnerability entirely. It creates an uneven playing field where one player has to be flawless under adverse conditions just to remain in the conversation, while the other is given every institutional advantage to retain his spot. The entire framework seems designed to reach a predetermined conclusion while allowing the decision makers to maintain plausible deniability. They want the public to believe that the competition resolved itself naturally on the field, rather than admitting that the outcome was structured from the top down. But as convincing as that front office strategy might look from a distance, the actual production on the practice field tells a story that the coaching staff never anticipated getting out. If you strip away the contracts, the press releases, and the media hype, football at its core is supposed to be about production between the white lines. When two players are competing for the most important position on the field, the coaching staff typically tracks every single throw, every decision against pressure, and every turnover during team periods. According to multiple reports and observations from camp observers, the actual passing metrics generated throughout the summer do not support the idea that Watson has clearly outperformed Sanders. In fact, when looking closely at completion percentages during competitive drills and the ability to protect the football, Sanders has reportedly shown remarkable efficiency and command. He has routinely delivered accurate passes in tight windows, minimized turnover-worthy plays, and demonstrated a quick processing speed that caught the attention of several veteran teammates. Watson, on the other hand, has experienced noticeable stretches of inconsistency. Observers have noted erratic accuracy during specific red zone periods and instances where the offense stalled against standard defensive coverages. In a completely unbiased environment, a significant gap in practice efficiency would naturally force a coaching staff to adjust their depth chart. If a challenger is outperforming an incumbent in daily execution, the logical football response is to reward that player with more first-team opportunities to see if that production carries over against higher-level competition. Yet, in Cleveland, the distribution of snaps remained completely frozen. Despite what the daily practice tape was revealing, the depth chart never budged, and the priority reps never shifted toward the player who was generating positive momentum. This stark contrast between raw on-field data and executive decision-making is why real football enthusiasts follow Gridiron Ground. We do not just accept the official box score. We break down the underlying metrics and power dynamics that truly dictate NFL depth charts. If you consider yourself a true student of the game who wants the unfiltered reality behind every major league controversy, hit that subscribe button right now and join the Gridiron Ground community. When an organization refuses to adjust its plan despite clear evidence on the practice field, it exposes the reality that this was never a statistical evaluation to begin with. Football coaches are famously obsessed with details, analyzing thousands of hours of practice film to find the slightest competitive edge. They count every dropped pass, every missed protection call, and every improper footwork sequence. For a staff to overlook measurable production differences during competitive camp periods means that the decision-making process is being governed by forces far outside the coaching room. It means that no matter how well Sanders performs during individual drills or 7-on-7 sessions, the baseline criteria for winning the job has been artificially shifted. The competition is not being judged on who throws the most accurate ball or who makes the cleanest reads against the blitz. It is being governed by an invisible ceiling that was constructed before the first day of training camp. And to understand why that ceiling exists, you have to look directly at the massive financial machinery operating behind the scenes. In the modern landscape of professional sports, money does not just talk. It dictates organizational philosophy from the top down. To truly comprehend why the Browns are handling their quarterback depth chart with such rigid scripting, you have to confront the historic financial commitment hanging over the entire franchise. When Cleveland completed the blockbuster acquisition of Deshaun Watson, they did something that permanently altered the economic landscape of the league by awarding him a fully guaranteed $230 million contract. That single decision tied the reputation, legacy, and job security of the entire front office directly to Watson's success. In the NFL, an executive can survive a missed draft pick or a disappointing regular season, but benching a quarterback who carries the largest fully guaranteed contract in football history is an admission of catastrophic failure that very few general managers can afford to make. This creates what psychologists and economists call the sunk cost trap, but on an unprecedented, multi-million-dollar scale. When an organization invests that amount of capital, draft assets, and institutional credibility into one individual, the pressure to justify that investment overrides pure on-field meritocracy. Admitting that a younger, lower-cost quarterback might give the team a better chance to win would instantly turn the front office into a national punchline and invite immediate scrutiny from ownership. Therefore, the institution is heavily incentivized to construct an environment where the expensive veteran...
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
...is given every possible runway to succeed, regardless of how challenging his recent performances may have been. Every practice script, every press conference, and every depth chart update is crafted through the lens of protecting that massive organizational investment. This dynamic places an extraordinary burden on a young talent like Shedeur. When you are competing against a player carrying a historic financial guarantee, being slightly better in practice is nowhere near enough. You are not just competing against another athlete's arm talent or athletic ability. You are competing against the balance sheet of a billion-dollar enterprise and the professional survival of the executives who sign the checks. The coaching staff is placed in an impossibly compromised position. Even if the offensive assistants see superior rhythm, faster processing, and better energy with the younger quarterback running the huddle, their mandate from the top floor is undeniably focused on making the multi-million-dollar investment work. This financial reality explains why the coaching staff is so desperate to see Watson take control of the job during the regular season. They need him to win the position not just for the upcoming game, but to validate years of organizational strategy and shield the front office from widespread criticism. The entire setup is engineered to protect the financial narrative at all costs. But what makes this situation even more damaging to the team's credibility is that the executives themselves could not help but leave a trail of clues before the football season had even begun. One of the most revealing aspects of this entire saga is how early the organization began tipping its hand to the public. If a franchise is genuinely committed to running an open competition, the language used by high-ranking executives in the spring and early summer is carefully kept neutral. Smart executives will consistently emphasize that every position must be earned, that no starting jobs are guaranteed, and that the best performer throughout August will be under center in September. But if you rewind the tape and examine the public statements made by Browns Executive Vice President J.W. Johnson months before training camp opened, the facade of an open competition completely falls apart. Long before players reported for voluntary organized team activities or mandatory minicamp, Johnson was already openly discussing Watson as the centerpiece around which the entire organization was structuring its upcoming campaign. Johnson went on record praising Watson's physical recovery, highlighting his mental focus, and openly urging the fan base to rally behind him as the undisputed starting quarterback. He explicitly acknowledged that while there might be public pushback regarding Watson leading the team, fans needed to offer their full support moving forward. Those are not the words of an executive preparing for a wide-open summer battle between two capable signal callers. That is the definitive language of an organization that had already sketched out its depth chart in permanent marker and was actively laying the groundwork to manage the public relations fallout. When the front office establishes that type of public baseline in the spring, It sends a clear and unmistakable message down the organizational ladder to the coaching staff, the scouting department, and the locker room. The coaches understand their operational parameters long before the first whistle blows in July. They know that an open competition storyline is useful for keeping ticket sales active, driving off-season media engagement, and keeping younger players motivated during grueling summer workouts. But behind closed doors, the executive leadership had already defined what the preferred outcome needed to be. The on-field process was never meant to determine the winner. It was meant to provide enough visual evidence to justify the decision that had already been made in executive boardrooms months earlier. When you connect Johnson's early statements directly to the unequal practice reps witnessed in August, the entire timeline aligns with absolute precision. There was never an authentic blank slate. Sanders entered the building facing a stacked deck, where every positive play he made was treated as an unexpected bonus, while every snap taken by Watson was viewed as a step toward fulfilling the front office's predetermined vision. Yet, the executive messaging was only one half of the equation, because the local narrative machine was working just as hard to protect the predetermined outcome. In every major professional sports market, the way local media covers daily practice sessions plays a massive role in shaping public perception and fan sentiment. When an authentic quarterback battle takes place, objective reporting requires that both competitors are held to the exact same standard of evaluation. Every interception, every misread coverage, and every touchdown drive should be reported with identical context and scrutiny. But analysts who have monitored the daily coverage in Cleveland over the course of the spring and summer have pointed out a glaring and consistent disparity in how the two quarterbacks are framed by team-adjacent media outlets. When Deshaun Watson experienced difficult practices marked by erratic throws, miscommunications with receivers, or multiple turnovers during team drills, the coverage routinely offered protective context. Local reports frequently framed Watson's struggles as necessary growing pains, standard recovery adjustments as he worked his way back into rhythm, or the natural result of testing aggressive throws in a controlled practice environment. His mistakes were minimized as part of a larger, positive process of development. However, whenever Shedeur Sanders encountered a similar struggle or threw a contested pass in tight coverage, the tone of the reporting shifted dramatically. Those same mistakes were suddenly framed as glaring evidence that the young rookie was overwhelmed by the speed of the NFL, that his mechanics required fundamental rebuilding, or that he was simply not ready to handle the complex responsibilities of an NFL offense. This type of asymmetric framing does not happen by accident. It is the direct result of an access-driven media environment where maintaining favorable relationships with the organization often requires aligning with the front office's preferred narrative. By subtly conditioning the fan base to excuse the veteran's errors while magnifying the rookie's flaws, the media narrative helps build a protective wall around the predetermined decision. When the coaching staff eventually announces Watson as the Week 1 starter, the public has already been primed to accept the outcome as the only reasonable, football-sound conclusion. This selective storytelling ignores the reality of what is actually occurring on the field. When Sanders completed high-difficulty passes under pressure or commanded the 2-minute offense with poise, those moments were frequently downplayed as routine plays against backup defenders. Meanwhile, standard checkdowns completed by Watson with the starting unit were celebrated as proof of his veteran mastery and command of the playbook. The double standard was applied consistently across every practice session, creating an artificial narrative bubble that shielded the veteran from genuine competitive pressure while systematically undermining the rookie's legitimate achievements. But while public relations strategies can easily sway public opinion,
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
They carry a dangerous hidden cost inside the one place that actually decides football games. While general managers and public relations directors can attempt to control the public narrative, there is one sacred environment where manufactured storylines cannot survive: the locker room. An NFL locker room is a remarkably perceptive and unforgiving ecosystem comprised of 53 elite professionals whose careers, families, and financial futures depend entirely on winning games. Every offensive lineman putting his body on the line against 300-pound defensive tackles, every wide receiver running full-speed routes across the middle, and every defensive captain trying to secure a playoff bonus knows who the best player is at every single position. They see every single rep up close without the filter of media spin or executive talking points. When an organization compromises the fundamental principle of meritocracy to protect a financial investment or an executive's ego, the ripple effects can be catastrophic to team chemistry. Players respect authenticity above all else. If the locker room begins to sense that the starting quarterback job is being awarded based on contract size rather than daily execution, it creates an undercurrent of cynicism and resentment that can tear a football team apart from the inside. Offensive linemen notice when one quarterback consistently holds onto the ball too long, takes avoidable sacks in practice, or fails to set the protection correctly at the line of scrimmage. They also notice when a young quarterback demonstrates poise, gets the ball out on time, and protects the players blocking for him. If the players on the field believe that Sanders gives the team the most dynamic energy and the best statistical chance to win, but watch the coaching staff continuously bend the rules to favor Watson, trust in the coaching staff begins to erode. This deep understanding of locker room dynamics and authentic gridiron culture is the foundation of everything we build here on Gridiron Ground. We know that real football is decided by locker room trust, physical execution, and authentic leadership, not by executive boardrooms. If you want high-level, uncompromising analysis that respects the real game and cuts through the corporate noise, take a moment to subscribe to Gridiron Ground right now and become an active part of our growing community. History has shown time and time again that when a head coach loses the trust of his veteran leaders over quarterback favoritism, the entire season can spiral out of control before October even arrives. Defense players who spend 4 quarters battling to keep the score close will inevitably grow frustrated if they feel the offense is being held back by a front office mandate. Receivers who run crisp routes only to be missed by an erratic passer will eventually let their body language show on the sideline. The coaching staff is walking a razor-thin tightrope. They are trying to satisfy the demands of the executives who sign their paychecks while desperately attempting not to lose the faith of the 53 men who determine their survival on Sunday afternoons. As tension continues to build beneath the surface, the team is quickly running out of room to maneuver because the ultimate moment of truth is fast approaching. Despite all the calculated practice scripting, the carefully orchestrated media framing, and the overwhelming financial pressure coming from the front office, the Cleveland Browns are about to enter a phase where their narrative can no longer be completely controlled. The regular season is rapidly approaching, and there is roughly a 2-week window remaining before final roster cuts are finalized, and the official depth chart must be submitted to the league office. The upcoming preseason showdown against the Buffalo Bills represents the single most dangerous variable in the organization's entire plan. For all the ways a coaching staff can manipulate practice reps, joint sessions, and media availability, an actual live football game remains an unscripted, unpredictable proving ground where reality cannot be hidden behind closed doors. When Shedeur Sanders steps onto that field under the stadium lights, he will be operating in front of a live national television audience, thousands of screaming fans, and an entire league of talent evaluators watching his every move. If Sanders goes out against the Bills and plays completely lights-out football, delivering precise strikes under pressure, creating explosive plays out of structure, and orchestrating flawless touchdown drives. The pressure on this organization will reach a boiling point. You can script a joint practice behind private security gates, but you cannot script away undeniable excellence on live television. A dominant, undeniable performance by Sanders would instantly shatter the carefully crafted.
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
Crafted narrative that he is not ready, exposing the gap between his talent and the opportunities he has been denied. The national discourse would become deafening. Former players, national commentators, and the team's own passionate fan base would demand answers that the front office simply cannot provide without looking entirely disingenuous. How could an organization claiming to prioritize winning justify benching the quarterback who clearly outplayed the competition throughout the preseason? The coaching staff would find itself trapped between an executive mandate to play their high-priced veteran and an undeniable reality demanding that the best player take the field. These next 2 weeks represent the ultimate collision between executive control and pure, unadulterated athletic performance. The countdown has officially begun, and every single snap Sanders takes from this moment forward carries the weight of an entire franchise's credibility. What we are witnessing in Cleveland transcends a standard training camp quarterback battle. It is a fascinating case study in power, money, and the fragile nature of meritocracy in modern professional sports. When an organization commits historic financial resources to a single individual, the temptation to manipulate the competitive environment to protect that investment becomes almost irresistible. The unequal practice distributions, the selective media framing, and the early executive statements all point toward a process that was heavily influenced long before the players ever laced up their cleats. Yet, the beautiful thing about the game of football is that the truth ultimately has a way of exposing itself between the white lines on Sunday afternoons. No amount of corporate public relations or scripted practice sessions can permanently suppress authentic talent, nor can it permanently shield an underperforming player from the brutal reality of live NFL competition. Whether the Browns' front office chooses to acknowledge what is happening on the field or continues to force their predetermined outcome, the ultimate verdict will be rendered when the real games begin. In the end, football always demands accountability, and the decisions made in Cleveland over these critical 2 weeks will define the trajectory of this franchise for years to come.
Voluntary minicamp last week ahead of Shedeur Sanders in this quarterback competition and having the inside track to be named QB1. I really do think that Todd Monken should just go ahead and declare Deshaun Watson the starting quarterback.
He looks healthy. He's in a great headspace. We'll see how it all shakes out. There is an ongoing competition, but, he's got nothing to lose. And if he's our starting quarterback, I know there are people that probably won't be supportive, but they should need to be supportive as much as they can. And if he plays great, awesome. If he doesn't, then, it is what it is, and we're looking ahead to the future.